Hey, folks. Welcome to the pre-show, where not much else happens other than just getting set up. If you're new around here, you're new to these parts, aren't you? If you are, this is what we do for the first 4 minutes and 25 seconds. Now, I got to get that clicked on. I got to make sure my soundboard is up and running. Now, there was something I was going to look for. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. How's everybody tonight? Like I say, this isn't too amazing, the pre-show. It's just me getting set up. Is that it? Hold on. Not very talkative at the moment. That's because I'm looking for something. Boom, boom, boom. That's on. I got to get the link going for the radio station. Boom. That's up. I've got my sound almost all the way down. Let's see. Hello? Hello? Are you there? Okay. I've got to turn the sound down for that so I don't get feedback. So we're all pretty much set to go. I wanted to find something because I want to talk about it. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, there's that. All. Yeah, I'm not shopping. I'm looking for something. Don't you hate that? Every time you put in a search, well, there's a store. Some stores got something they're selling that looks exactly like what you're searching for. There we go. Okay, I think I got it. Okay, the time is 9:02 and 56 seconds. No, it's 9:03. So we've got 1 minute and 20 seconds or so left, and we go live on the radio station. I hope you're having a great time watching me just get set up. Let's see. I was looking for the meaning of something. Yada, yada, yada. It doesn't have the definition I want. Hello. We're in the pre-show.
I need this for a fake packaging video. I'll bring it back.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it.
Well, it's supposed to give me the definition of all of this. There it is. Okay. All right. I got what I need. And we've still got about 20 seconds left before we go live on the radio station. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here. Niall Parkinson, Barbie D, Grumpy Stack, Remeldian, good to see you as well. And Barbie D, I said, and who else we got in here right now? A bunch of you. Roger Rabbit is here, and Matt Finn, Master Finn. So I got to go dark because you know what? We're going to go live. Stand by.
Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with two T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey folks, happy Wednesday evening. Greetings and felicitations to all of you. And welcome to my program. I'm Scotty Roberts. This is my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on Odyssey Radio. You can go over and hear the audio version of this show at Odyssey Radio, ODYSY radio.com, and see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio. At the same time, you can come over here and watch this show in video simulcast. You can see it primarily over on my YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. Or now they've got the new handles. You can put an @ symbol in front of Scotty Roberts. So youtube.com/@Scotty Roberts. And you can join the chat room, which is going on live there right now. Join the fellow Intrepids that are all gathering over there. Some of them I said hello to before we got on live while we were still on the pre-show. And so welcome to everybody. Glad that you're here. And by the way, if you are not subscribed to my channel, please go over to my YouTube channel and subscribe. At the same time, you can also not only subscribe, hit the little bell, and it'll give you announcements for when this show comes live. And if you're already subscribed, if you're already got the announcements signed up for, you can also hit the little join button below. That'll give you 3 ways that you can join the channel. And that helps us over here maintain this show. So thank you very much in advance. But the show is always free, and it's archived here. Every one of the episodes we've done, I think, save for 1 or 2, is archived here. We've got over 750 episodes from the last several years archived here on my YouTube page. And so go avail yourself of it. Take a look. Check it out. Go way back in the past and see what we were doing back then. I think I started so long ago, I even had darker hair and more of it. Anyway, so welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you were here. And I see some people over there. Chad Sanders. Oh, you couldn't hear? Oh, you can't hear shit. Oh, now you can. Good. Fantastic. And 754,000 episodes, says Grumpy Stack. Now, remember the other night, I gave you a little story of my Ouija board. Now, it's not a Ouija board that I use because I don't really use them, although I'm not afraid to use them because I believe Ouija boards, like anything else, when you're doing paranormal work, paranormal investigation, It's just a tool. And depending on how you use it will determine on whether or not you have a good or bad experience with it, I believe. And that is my belief, I should say. And I've had bad experiences with Ouija boards. I don't really use them for that reason, but I'm not afraid to use them. I don't fear having one in my house or anything like that. And I've got an old Ouija board, and I told you this story the other night that I bought it at a garage sale or a thrift store or something for just $1 or something like that. And it's an old Ouija board. It dates back to before they started putting dates on everything for collectors. So it's probably out of the 60s is my guess. And it didn't have a planchette with it, and it was pristine shape. The box is a little beat up, but I've had that in storage for about 10 or 12 years. And just out in the garage, stashed in something, behind something, leaning up against a wall, behind a box, whatever. It's not hidden, it's just there. And so when we moved in here a little over a month ago now, that ended up out in the open kind of, and is leaning up against an old steamer trunk that I have. Well, not a steamer, it's more like a pirate chest. And so it's leaning up against that. And it's behind the door. When you come in the side door of the garage, the door opens up and you're in the garage, and that Ouija board would be behind that door. So a couple of mornings ago, I got up quite early and I stepped outside, and guess what? There's that Ouija board laying face down about 30 feet from my side door of my garage in the grass. I almost said garage to go with the garage. The garage outside the garage. And so I thought, well, that's mighty strange. And I thought perhaps the lovely, vivacious Rainey had pitched it out the door. Now, there's a couple of reasons I thought that right away. Number one, my kids wouldn't mess with it. I don't know what it is. Number two, when Rainey historically has gotten really pissed off at me about something, she'll just look at me sometimes and she'll pick something up and she'll go, "Is this yours?" And I go, "Yeah." And she'll go, and she'll throw it just to show me how mad she is. And I thought the day before she'd gotten mad at me because I had the garage door open and I was smoking outside and I let smoke get into the garage. She gets real testy about that. So I heard her slam the door shut, and I thought the next morning when I saw the Ouija board, I thought, did she kick that out the door or something? But it was behind the door. She would have had to pull it out of there. I don't know what. So I asked her. She didn't pitch it out there. And neither did the kids. The kids didn't even know what it was. It needed some fresh air, said Morgan Snow. Well, anyway, that was the original story I told you all. And I thought, is this a mystery? Is this something I should be concerned about on a spiritual level? Now, you guys know me. I believe in the spirit realm and the spiritual realm and the supernatural realm very boldly and strongly. And I believe it exists. And you can put all the caveats on that and all the what ifs and all the criticism, whatever. I don't really give a flying rat's bahookie about that. But I have a belief system about that stuff. And so I wondered. And so I picked it up and I put it away. And I asked Rainey, nope. Kids, nope. So, Niall says the kids could easily have messed with it as it looks like a board game. Yeah, Niall, they wouldn't have. My kids don't play with board games. You know why? They have phones. They have laptops. They have computers. They have television. They have bikes. There's no reason. And besides, my kids wouldn't just haul something out and drop it out in the middle of the yard face down in the wet grass, dewy grass. So we'll leave that to say, if I asked them, one of my kids would tell you, yeah, I was messing with it. So I know it wasn't my kids, and I know it wasn't Rainey. So that's the story as it stands. Now, what's interesting is this. Is this a twist on the supernatural portion of this story? Here's the twist. 2 days ago, the same day, my ring went missing. Now, I wear a couple of different rings. I've got this ring. Those of you who know what this means, it's my ring of Bara here, and I've got my wedding ring and another ring that Rainey gave me on this hand, and I wore that big round ring on this hand that had the cross on it. It was a Saint Benedict's cross, and there was a reason I would wear that, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But the Saint Benedict's ring went missing. Now, usually when I wash my hands, I set it on the sink, put it back on, because I don't like getting soap and all that, whatever the reasons. And I distinctly remember leaving it on the side of the sink, and I might have walked out of the room to do something and left it sitting there. The drain's not big enough to suck it down. It's nowhere in the bathroom. Suffice it to say, it's been missing for 2 days now. What else went missing? My car keys went missing the same day. Now, we have 2 sets of keys, but my keys also went missing. There was something else. There was a third thing that happened. Like 3 things went missing. I couldn't find them. They're gone. Something else I put in my pocket that's now gone. And, it was a piece of paper. I had some codes written on and stuff like that. Gone. All right. Now, all by themselves, those 3 things mean absolutely nothing. They're just daily occurrences. I lose things all the time. I drop things all the time. I misplace things quite a bit around here. So does Rainey. Everybody does. But the interesting thing was the things that went missing. My keys, my ring. Let me tell you a little bit about this ring. And I will show you, this isn't my ring, but this is a ring, a picture of the ring that I have. And let me do this. I should have prepped this ahead of time. I'm going to blow this thing up a little bit so you can see it better. And I'm going to share it on my screen like so. Let me save it. Save as. Those of you listening audibly on the radio, you're going to get no benefit of this by not seeing this. If you want to see it, you still got a minute. Before I get it up there, you can come and see that over on the chat room as I'm discussing it. I have to save it in a certain format so I can call it up. Okay. Now, let me go back over here, and I'm going to upload this ring. And now, again, there are so many things that we face in the world and in our day-to-day lives that people tend to over-spiritualize. Now, you guys knowing me, I don't do that. I've never been given to that. I don't like over-spiritualizing. I don't like saying, oh, look, there's an orb in that photograph of us from last Thanksgiving. That must be my great-grandma coming to visit. I don't even do that. So, let's see. Let me find where it went here. Benedict ring. There it is. Okay. So that's uploading for the second. So I don't do that kind of thing. Niall says, excluding woo and looking for a reasonable Occam's razor explanation, a message desperately trying to be sent to you. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So here is a picture of not my ring, but the ring. It looks like this. And let me get rid of my banner like that. Now, this is the Medal of Saint Benedict. And I had this in a ring form. It's a big round ring that not too gaudy, but it's a round ring. And it's got all these letters that crisscross on it. Sarah Soderlund took a really nice picture of this ring on an old beat-up wooden picnic table out in a park that we were all out at Fort Snelling, and she took a picture of this because she thought it was really interesting. But at the top, you've got the pax. I don't know. I don't go and get into Latin. I don't know Latin. Crux Sancti Patris Benedicti. It just means the cross of the Holy Father Benedict. And the pax means peace. The cross is the cross of Saint Benedict. Right in here, you've got all these initials, all these letters going around the outer ring. and crossing in the cross pieces of the cross, and then the ones in the little circles and the quadrants. It talks about basically, drink thou thine own poison, begone Satan. It's a warning to Satan. Drink your own poison. Begone Satan. Evil are the things that thou profferest, and do not suggest to me thy vanities. And then in the cross, the holy cross be my light, and let not the dragon be my guide. And all these letters are symbols for the first letters of all these sayings in Latin. As you see this one, non suade mihi vana, in the middle, NDSMD. So that's what the ring stood for. And it was basically, the idea of the ring was that it was something that was meant to ward off evil. And it's the medal is a prayer. This is according to the order of Saint Benedict. The medal, or the ring, as I had it on the ring, is a prayer of exorcism against Satan, a prayer for strength in time of temptation, a prayer for peace among ourselves and among the nations of the world, a prayer that the cross of Christ be our light and guide, a prayer of firm rejection of all that is evil, a prayer of petition that we may, with Christian courage, walk in God's ways, with the gospel as our guide, as Saint Benedict urges us. So that's the meaning of the ring. Now, why did I buy this ring? It was actually an accident when I first bought it. I was buying a Templar ring, and this got sent to me. And I said, that's not the ring I ordered. But I looked at it and I studied it a little bit. What does it mean? And, oh, okay. I think that's very interesting. And I thought, since I do all this ghost hunting and I do all kinds of stuff like that, why don't I put this ring on and I'll wear it? Especially when I'm doing now, I'm not Catholic. I don't go with all the Catholic traditions. I don't go with all the Christian traditions. But I thought it never hurts to maybe put this on and use it as a bit of a symbol that, I eschew the evil. You can't come into me. You can't affect me, so on and so forth. So I ended up wearing it most all the time. So what happens now? The day the Ouija board goes missing, I put up a post and everybody's saying, those are evil. You've got to get them out of their house. And you know what? Nobody told me anything I hadn't heard a million times before. And I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I knew all these things already. I've studied this stuff for 40 years. So nobody gave me a huge insight to anything or an epiphany about a Ouija board and what evils they can perpetuate if you're not careful with them. And that was my point that I kept making was, well, you've got to be careful. It's a tool that can be used, and so on. Sarah Yusuf said, items only work as well as you believe in them. And you know what? I believe that as well. Do you know where I first heard that? Crazy. This just popped into my head. The first time I ever heard anything like that was in the movie Fright Night, which came out in the 80s, early 80s sometime. It was a vampire movie. And it had Roddy McDowell, if you remember him, was in that. And and I can't remember the name of the actor who played the vampire. You'd recognize him, but somebody, it's the Roddy McDowell character, held a cross up to him when he saw, you're the vampire, and he holds the cross up. And the vampire comes up and slaps it out of his hand. And he says, do you really think that would work against me? He says, you have to believe in them for them to work. So that's exactly what Sarah Yusuf said. And that's exactly what I had, was I had that on because I have, maybe you could have said I had a partial belief in some of what was being said there. I sometimes believe it's okay to ask for protection from a deity, from an angelic, from a supernatural, whatever. You've all heard the story I had with the person from Egypt, the ancient attachment from Egypt. I've told that story and asking for protection. So all of that, I find the Ouija board upside down in the grass, and the same day, that ring has disappeared. I've looked for it everywhere. Now, that was 2 days ago. Not a major deal. If I wanted to replace it, I could replace it for $50. But so it wasn't that. And I wasn't overly concerned about it. But I even had a dream about looking for that ring last night. Just a little dream where I was opening a door and I looked down at my foot and I went, oh, there it is. And there's the ring laying on the carpet right by the opening door. And that was the whole dream. I don't remember anything else about the dream. So it's obviously in my subconscious. So I thought, now maybe there's something to that. Now, you can listen to that story and go, what a bunch of bullshit. And you may well. I've done that for other people's stories like that. What's interesting is I hear other people tell tales like that. And I'm like, oh boy, get a life. And yet when I have experiences like that, I go, wait a minute. My story would sound just as buffoonish to someone else as it does to me. Matt Finn says it all seems rather ominous. And well, so the Ouija board on the yard, the ring gone missing the same afternoon, and then the car keys gone, which isn't a big deal. We misplace car keys all the time. Everybody does. But it's the same day. Now my car keys are missing. Damn it. Where are my car keys? Can't find them anywhere. I did all my laundry. I keep my laundry out of the general population laundry of the house, mostly because I don't like it all getting piled up and it's piled in some kid's room. Where's my shirt? Where's my khaki pants? Oh, they're in the kids' room. My socks. Why do you think I started, and I joked about this when I did it, why do you think I started the practice in this house of when you take your socks off, pin the toes together with a safety pin? Why, you may well ask? Because you can throw them in the wash that way. They go through the wash, the dryer, they come out, they're still pinned together. And you never lose one member of a pair of your socks. That's worked for me for years. So I did all my laundry one day, 2 days ago. And I checked the pockets of everything before I put it in there. Nothing. Big fat nothing. Ring gone, car keys gone. Nowhere in the house. Nowhere I would have put them. I'd sit here on my desk. If it were to appear on my desk right now while I'm digging, it would be because I either missed it before, which I didn't, or we have that kind of stuff happen around here a lot too for years. And then the piece of paper that I had a code written for something doesn't matter for the story, was in my pocket this morning. Nowhere to be found. So little things like that have gone missing. It seemed to me that there was a third thing, though, that was a little more spiritual significance, and I can't think of what it was. So I leave that with you. There is my story of that, of what happened with that, finding the Ouija board upside down, and then finding my ring gone. It's not my ring of protection. Oh my God, I'm clenching my chest and tearing my garment because I don't have that ring. It's just one that I had in my head, and my subconscious was I wear that for a reason. And then the car keys gone, of course, stuff like that. So when those things turn up, I'll let you know. And I'll let you know where I found them and so on. But Rainey and I have had lots of things over the years where, you ever happen to this? You say, I took this thing right here and I set it there. I came back to get it and it wasn't there. And I thought, where did I put it? Nowhere. You look all over. A day goes by, or a part of the day, and you come back. There it is again. So is that stuff being moved? Is that spiritual? Is it blah, blah, blah? Yeah, Beth Kirkham says, let me guess, in the freezer under the fish sticks. Hey, everyone. Maybe. We'll find out. They're always in the last place you look. Ain't that the truth, Ryan Gale? I said that when I was looking for my costume boots. And I looked through 35 boxes, and it was in the very last box I opened up. Go figure. Oh, and look at this. Isn't this funny? I found this today. We were at the Halloween store getting a little Halloween costume for Ellie, who needed one, a special one. and I found these mints. Mystifying mints. And the actual mint itself is shaped like the planchette. So some of you might say, whoa, you're just tempting fate now. You're just rattling that in Satan's face. Well, I don't believe that. So I don't think that's what's happening, because this has never been used, nor will it ever be used to invoke a spirit. It's print on a tin. That's all it is. There's no sigils. There's no nothing calling anything evil in. So David Potter says, but why would you keep looking after you found him? So it's always going to be the last place. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? No, I had 35 tubs, and you know where it was? It was actually in the very last. It was in the 35th tub that I found those boots. And then I didn't find them there. I found other costumes. Then Rainey found it in one of her costume tubs. She used to make, so she's got all kinds of fabric and all kinds of costume bits and pieces all over the garage. She found it the next day. So there it is. I saw a couple of comments go by on this. This isn't the topic for tonight, but it's become half of the topic for tonight. It's already 9:30. We're already at the bottom of the hour. And I wanted to get back into some Celtic gods, some of the Celtic mythology, because I think it's kind of fun. Field Guy says, the washer eats socks. It's called the lint thing. Yeah, that's the dryer has the lint thing. Does your mom still wash her clothes? You don't even know what the lint catcher is? That's in the dryer. I'm teasing you, Field Guy. Let's see. What else we got in here? Fourth item is, what's the fourth item missing? I don't know, Romeldian. There's something else that went missing, and I can't think of what it was. Maybe it was just those two things, and then the code written on a piece of paper. Niall says it could be an entity attaching itself to you, probably to do with the recent content. Sounds tricksterish. Might be. I don't know. Tricksterish? Maybe. I remember when I'd had that bad experience with the Ouija board back in the mid-1980s. And I told my aunt, the witch, about it. And she started laughing. I said, what are you laughing about? I said, she laughed when I said she said, did you ask its name? And I said, yeah, it said it was Albert Einstein. And she laughed and giggled a little bit at that. She goes, oh, they're fucking with you. And I said, who's they? The spirits. And then it said it was a demon and stuff like that. And a woman from the early 20th century and so on. And she laughed and she said, spirits will do that. They'll just do that as she said, to fuck with you. And she laughed and she said, it's just their way of messing with you. And she said, mess back with them. Anyway, that's my aunt, my late aunt. So maybe it's something like that. Last couple of days, I had some office stuff happening in the house too, said Morgan Snow. The veil is getting thinner the closer we get to Samhain, or Halloween. So there it is. There's that story. I just thought I'd throw that out there and ask you, what do you think about that? If you stick around for the Captain's Cabin, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit there. Or you can put a comment over here in the chat room over on the YouTube channel. Where did I find these mints? Dave, we found them at the Halloween store. What is it called? The Good Spirits store in Stillwater, where you get kids' costumes and all kinds of Halloween stuff. It's a seasonal shop. I think it's a big chain because it's massive. But that's where I found them. And so I thought it was kind of fun to have. Gremlins, says Elderberry. Possibly. Dropped into the never ever portal to be with all the mists. Yeah. David, you wonder about that. I've heard stories of people who said was it somebody in the chat room who told this story, or a guest said something not long ago about having all these things disappear in their house and for years. And then after a while, finding all this stuff behind a wall that had been walled over or something like that. And they found it all behind the sheetrock. That's interesting, all by itself. So who did that? A skeptic will tell you, well, one of the kids probably did. Well, we don't have any kids. with this happened, that, and blah, blah, blah. A skeptic is not somebody who should, I believe, automatically disbelieve, but they are somebody who should say, I'd like to see proof of that or evidence. That's a pretty extraordinary tale. Give me some interesting feedback on that, or some evidence that means something. And so, anyway, let's move on for a few minutes and talk a little bit about the Celtic gods, where we kind of left off the other night. We're talking about Celtic mythology, and this is Celtic mythology light. But remember, we started with Angus Og, then we went to Bridget or Brigid. We talked about Dagda, and then now there's Danu. That's kind of where we left off, of the Celtic goddesses. And by the way, the Celtic gods and goddesses, remember when we talked about the Druids, most of this is oral tradition. There wasn't a lot of this written down from ancient times anyway. One of the laws of the Druids was it was forbidden to write them down, because then others could come in and steal that knowledge. So it had to be oral tradition. And because of that, there's a lot of things that we get scant traces of. So this isn't an exhaustive list of the gods and goddesses of Celtic mythology, but it is a short list, you can call it. And so now we're at the goddess Danu. Excuse me. Danu was worshipped as a mother, just as Dagda was worshipped as a father. And even though they weren't married, it's said that Danu birthed the Tuatha De Danann, hence Danan, the Danu. And those not born from her are directly descended from her. Very little is known about Danu. And aside from her dominion over the Celtic deities, who worship her as the leading mother goddess to the Tuatha, she's known to be powerful and often associated with water, just as Enki in ancient Sumerian culture was associated with water, one of the things, and snakes. So there's a few stories of Danu that have survived, but there's some indirect allusions to her within the stories of the cycles. In most, she's a source of nurturing, the motherhood aspect. And in some stories, she's suggested she's the mother of Dagda, and some compare her to the goddess Brigid, or Bridget, as she appears to have many associations. Fertility, war, nurturing, teaching, these are all related to Danu, despite the difficulty in finding many direct references to her. And the Irish language root of her name, Dan, means knowledge. We're talking Gaelic. It means knowledge, wisdom, art, skill, and sometimes poetry is put in there. Hence, it's very fitting for her various attributes. So that's Danu, in light. Again, these are all in light. Then there's Eriu, Banba, and Fadla. Eriu, it looks like it's spelled Eriu, E-R-I-U, Eru, also known as Eir or Erin, along with her sisters Banba and Fadla, are revered among the triple goddesses of Celtic lore. And they're simultaneously a single and a triple being. Where have we heard that before? You get that in the Trinity in the Bible. Singularly, God is one, but he is three. That's the same concept here with them. Now, did one come from the other? I know there wasn't much of a Trinity spoken of in the Old Testament. And many of these gods go way back prior to the times of the Old Testament. So this is, who wrote a good book on this, and I don't remember the title, but Marie D. Jones, a good friend of mine. She actually introduced me to my publisher when I got my first book done. It was because she introduced me to them on the Nephilim. And but she wrote a book on the Sacred Trinity, not a Christian book, the symbol of the triune, and why you see so many things as the triune feature in history and in all throughout Celtic mythology for sure. David Castle says, greetings and favor to you, Elderberry. I have come to the hypothesis that spell checker is fascist. Oh, man, I believe you 100%, David Castle. I'm right there with you. So, yes, the sacred spiral. I saw somebody say, a Nile. The Irish tribes had an obsession with a circular outward to inward spiral. Yes. And so, this triune three, simultaneously a single God and a triple being. It's the very island of Ireland receives its name from Eru. She is among the first of the Tuatha De Danann to approach the Milesians when they landed upon the shores of Ireland. The story tells that Eru had first proposed that the Milesians worship her as their goddess, but one of the druids had refused, insulting her. She laid a curse upon him, and days later he died. So given that there had been prophecy that the Milesians would claim the land as rightfully theirs, Eru made a deal with them. She would help them in battle, but only if the island was named after her. They came to an agreement. They shook on it, shook hands. Eru came to represent the island, and each time a new king or a high king took the throne, he would be married to Eru. And if he cared for her, the island would be healthy and prosperous. If he neglected her, the island would fall upon destitution and poverty. Today, Ireland is known as Erin's Isle, one of the many names of the place. So Lugh is the next god, L-U-G-H. Lugh, he was a god of nobility, as well as a god and a master of all crafts. He was known for possessing a great number of skills, all of which he mastered. He was sometimes referred to as Lugh of the Long Arm, and referring to his spear that, when thrown, would never miss its target. He was a god. What do you expect? It also refers to the reach of his vast range of skills. While he was the god of nobility, and the binding oaths and binding oaths they would take, he was also a trickster, willing to do whatever was necessary to achieve his desired result. So Lugh was also a fierce warrior in battle. His ability in battle had been prophesied, given by his grandfather, Balor of the Fomorians, and was said to be killed by his grandchild. And Lugh's conception and subsequent fulfillment of the prophecy of Balor's death is something we might hit on a little later. So just like Manannán Mac Lir, Lugh was vastly popular in the Celtic pantheon as the god of the sun. He'd be like the equivalent of Apollo. And he was a fantastic warrior, a clever, mischievous member of the Tuatha De Danann, and he was considered to be a god. Sarah Yusuf says, by the way, over in the chat room, triangles are considered very stable shapes. They are. Pyramids, kind of a triangle, and not a square. You notice they didn't build squares, they built pyramids. It's like that old car insurance commercial, Geico car commercial. It shows two Egyptians in the headdresses, ancient Egyptians, and they're looking at a papyrus parchment up close, and the camera's looking at them, and then they look over the top, and the one guy mumbles, "Uh-oh." And then it shows you what they're looking at, and you see the three pyramids, except they're three squares. Somebody messed up the plans somewhere along the way. So anyway, moving on. Macha is the next god. He was a warrior, or she was a warrior goddess, and closely related to the Morrigan, if you know of the Morrigan in Ireland. And the Navan fort received its original namesake from her, Emain Macha, or Macha's twins. And apart from being a part of the triple goddess of the Morrigan, she was also related to three core concepts. The first, related to the female fertility and reproduction. The second was the cultivation of fertile lands. And the third, overall sexual fertility. So she was a god of fertility, fertility, fertility. And you could call her triple X in a way. And not to be disrespectful. As these three aspects combine, we have this powerful goddess commanding the realms of all fertility in life, and the spirit of the warrior women who worshipped her. So the warrior women were classically drawn to the power of Macha, and they embraced her as not only a fearsome warrior, but the divine feminine who could embrace both sides. For more in-depth descriptions of her, I think we're going to pick this up a little later, give you a little more detail, because I'm just doing the God's light right now. So we'll get more into this in a bit later. Then we have Manannán mac Lir. Manannán mac Lir was the lord of the sea, the ruler of the land of youth. His armor was impossible to pierce, and through his pigs, he granted the gods immortality. The pig itself would regenerate as long as it was cooked over the same log and killed with the same axe. All who ate from the pig could not be killed. Manannán mac Lir was widely popular with the Celtic mythologies. He appeared repeatedly throughout the texts that were recorded. And it's said that he was killed in the Battle of Mag Cuilean, his body allegedly buried off the coast of what is now Donegal. And the area is home to a host of boat wrecks, legends saying that Manannán mac Lir rides the wives of the storm, bringing the ships to their misfortune. Then you have, again, Morrigan, Badab, and Bab and Neiman, I'm sorry, like in Neiman Marcus. The Morrigan is a complete, complex goddess. She presides over prophecy, over war, over death. She's simultaneously a single and triple goddess. The Morrigan was married to Dagda, and before battle, he would come to her for a prophecy about the outcome of the battle. During the battle, the Morrigan would fly over the battlefield, gathering the dead. She was also a shapeshifter, taking on many forms, ranging from a beautiful, shapely woman to an aged and decrepit crone, as well as a variety of animals. And so she presides over war alongside the goddess Macha and Neiman, yes. And the complexity of the Morrigan lies in her role as this triple goddess, which we already mentioned. While there is some dispute in the mythology as to who her two sisters were, or are, if you believe that, one commonly accepted the trilogy is Morrigan, Bab, or Badab, B-A-D-B, and Neiman, or respectively war, madness, and violence, makes up who the Morrigan is, despite also being this goddess of fertility. And however, depending on who is telling the story, some claim that Macha takes the place of Neiman as one of the terrifying trio of sisters. And she's a fearsome keeper of the dead, but not death within itself. When soaring over the battlefield, she favored taking the form of a crow. And when warriors on the battlefield would see her, sometimes mistaking her for a raven, they would either be inspired to fight for their lives or succumb to the fear of death. And she can be found quite regularly in the mythologies. And even today, some of that hangs on. If you see a crow outside your window, or the first sight you see in the morning when you look out and you see a crow, or a crow is roosting over your house or your yard or your place, it is said that that could be a harbinger of death. Isn't that interesting? So that's the Morrigan, Badab, And man, let's see, what kind of time do we have? We got a few minutes left, 3 or 4 minutes left, and we're done. So I'm just going to give you a couple of honorable mentions with the gods and goddesses that I'm not going to get into too deeply, and as I haven't with any of these yet, really. But the trouble with the way the Celtic mythologies were recorded, especially after centuries of exclusively passing all these stories down orally through the druids and the bards, is that while we do have some slight knowledge of the Celtic deities who were worshipped, it's often conflicting and vague. And translations are sometimes questionable. And worse, there are definite portions of the stories and the mythologies that died with the bards that we'll never know, which is a sad loss. And druids who spent their lives memorizing and telling these stories of these mythical beings, gone. And many of those elements gone forever. So those who did write the stories down were often later invaders. They were missionaries with their own agendas and their own struggles. They were changing names and legends to suit political or religious purposes. And there are many hundreds of deities of Celtic mythology that we've pieced together through shreds of stories, and deities that bore similar stories and themes in Roman and other related pantheons. And so while many of these beings have very limited information and only feature in other stories as kind of sub-characters, this isn't to say that they aren't worthy of mention. And I've got this list of some of these deities. Some of these beings are featured for a brief moment, and that's it, in some of these mythologies. And they likely would have once had massive, dedicated followings. Now I've got 2 minutes left, and I've got quite a list here. So I'll just hit you up with a couple of them right away. Arawn, A-R-A-W-N, is the ruler of the other world, the resting place of the deceased. Arwen, I keep wanting to say Arwen or Arwen, which was Lord of the Rings, Arwen. Arwen is a representative of all that's bound by honor and tradition. And due to the realm he inhabited, he's also closely tied to death, terror, war, hunting. And one of his best-known stories is the theft of his lapwing hound, his hound, and buck by the god Amatheon, the god of agriculture. And this spurred on the Battle of the Trees, but he was defeated when Amatheon's brother brought the trees to life to wage the war. I had a friend who worked, when I first met him about 30 years ago, they were working on a movie, an independent filmmaker here in the Twin Cities called The Battle for the Oaks, which I believe in my memory was loosely based on Arawn. So, folks, guess what? That's about all we can get through for the purposes of the radio show tonight, because we got to get out of here for all the listeners over on the radio station. And we still have, we've still got about 45 seconds left before we get out of here. So tomorrow night, we're going to pick this back up with the gods and on the honorable mentions of some of the gods that we don't know that much about, but which probably had much more prominent roles than we know them to exist today from what we have left over. So I hope you're enjoying this little series on Celtic mythology. We've been kind of jumping back and forth because we had my friend Wendy on last night. We've had other shows in between all of this. And so I hope you're enjoying it and having a good time with it. So we'll pick this back up tomorrow. For those of you listening only on the radio tonight, I have to bid you farewell. So stay tuned for the Captain's Cabin over on the YouTube channel. For those of you on radio, live well, live long, and prosper.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid Radio Program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Well, welcome to the captain's cabin. Arr. I love doing that. I love doing pirate voice. I love doing that with Dave, Uncle Dave to you. And it's just, and so I'm glad you all named it the captain's cabin. It's kind of fun. So tonight, in the captain's cabin, we're going to be as informal as ever. You're welcome to call in if you'd like to call in. For those of you who did not see it earlier, here is I'll paste it into the chat room. Bada boom! There it is. So you can, what was that? If your God not showing you respect, go get another God at Walmart. On sale before Christmas at $19.99. Yeah, that's it. Like we went and got my young daughter, Ellery, a costume today because she needed one for tonight, and we didn't have anything around here to build her one with. She needed one for the scout party. So we went and got her a nice costume. So I asked the guy, I said, so what's the return policy on these? I'm assuming I can't return it the day after Halloween and say it didn't fit right. He said, no. He says, it's got to be. That's what you just made me think of. For some reason, it's not even related, David Castle. It just, when you said Walmart, and because it's interesting, Rainey and I had to make a run to Walmart today for just little junk we needed to get. Then we had to make a run she wanted to run to the thrift store. We ran there. And then we had to go to some other thrift store. Then we had to go to the Halloween store, which we looked at me and said, that's just too much. We're not going to get that. And we left. And then we ended up having to go back to Walmart to get something we forgot. And then we came home, and then the little girl, and we did a little juggling and finding, okay, we can get her that particular costume. But if we get her that, then we don't get her this. There's nothing for that later. So we left it at that. And she made the choice. And of course, being a visceral young child who lives in the moment and sees no future, not that she sees a bleak future, she doesn't consider the future. I want that now. Yeah, let's do that now because I could have it. So, if you go the other way, you got this for a longer time. Well, that's not the party tonight. Okay. Yeah, we'll get you the costume. You can use it. And it's not like grandiose costume. It's still a store-produced costume. So I just didn't want to have to spend money on it. But we did this time. Flynn's got his Jedi stuff that he wears. Rowan's satisfied doing the stuff she does. She's got to look cute, So she can't be a monster just to be cute. So there you go. So we did a lot of running around today. I don't know, David Castle, where I was making a connection. I guess I didn't. I think it was just the mention of the word Walmart and spending $19.99. That has to be it. So Uncle Dave can be the king, says Ryan Gale. The king of what? What's Uncle Dave going to be? You going to call in, Uncle Dave? You going to be here tonight? Let's see. If you've ever seen Bohemian Grove, you will know what I mean, Roger. Ah, said Matt Finn. Yeah, you're onto some other stuff there. I saw something else you said. So, Scotty, we need to get that Pirate Renfest back on track. Yeah, we really do. Wouldn't that be cool to do? I know we had started trying to do a Renfest up here, and we got severely, kind of, how would I say this? It ran into a lot of roadblocks being put up by the guy who owns the big Minnesota Renaissance Festival. We said, look, there's room for 2 festivals up here. Would be a different time of the year. We were looking to build the Shakespeare's Globe Theater and to do a festival. And it was out in, those of you who live around here, Ryan and Dave, Leslie, it was out in Anoka on Kings Island Park, which was all wilderness. It was like 100 acres or more. Had to be more than that. It was just a little coulee off the Mississippi River that ran through it. Like a little creek ran through it, but they considered that enough water running through from one end to the other that it was an island. So they'd call it an island. It was all forest. And they were going to give us that for $1 a year lease for X number of years to build our festival out there. And trust me, it was all in the contract work. They were going to build exits off of Highway 10 up there. so people could get into that festival better. But we ran into all kinds of junk going. I got blacklisted at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. This was in 2003. And we had the mayor of Anoka working with us, a guy named Bjorn Skokvist, wanting to bring this new festival in. And so it didn't, and it ended up not happening. We had some wrenches put in the gear, the economy, the this, the that, the whatever. City council members that didn't want it, etc. So we never did do it. But yeah, you'll get steep competition from the guy that maybe he's too old now and he doesn't care anymore. I don't know. So and some of the people at the festival were very interested in coming in on this. So there's that. All right. So how's Rowan's neck? Asked Sarah Yusuf. Perfect. I don't think she even has a pain in the neck anymore. She's just a pain in the neck to other people. The window was there. I had to take it. The door was open. She's just fine. She just twisted up her neck a little bit and it hurt for a day. I don't think I've heard her say anything about that ever since. So who else is here? Again, Captain's Cabin, folks. Those of you who don't normally come in here, or you're just tuning in. Very informal. As a matter of fact, what's with me tonight? Wow. I got the burps coming on. I think it's because I hadn't eaten all day and Rainey made some like a pork roast or something. And I had some of that about an hour before the show. See, look at me. All night I've been fighting this. And so while I was doing the radio show, good grief. Let's talk about it gets worse. So pardon me for that way ahead of time. What I was saying is Captain's Cabin is a lot more informal than the radio show in content and the way we're structured and what we do and so on, bloody, bloody, bloody. Now I was coming over here to do something. I was going to take that down. There we go. And the office, by the way, studio is still, we haven't done much with it yet. Still want to paint a mural back there. All the way back here. You can see how far back this is from the desk way up over there. And so we got that to paint. Some of the floor paint is already showing signs that it's going to wear very easily. So I might have to put another coat down and put some kind of protectant over it or something like that. So anyway, hold on. I got myself all disheveled by rolling back there. All right. Okay. There's Uncle Dave. Let's bring him in. Hey, Uncle Dave.
I couldn't find a link on my phone. For whatever reason, the app on the phone wouldn't give me the link to come in. And so I had to switch to a different device. I posted in the chat room just a few minutes ago. Easy to miss it, though. Scrolls up so fast. So, what's up? How you doing? I'm doing good. Right on. Let's see, who's full of what, Barbara? Somebody's full of something. Probably me. Oh, Dave, he's full of it. Aren't we all? So, just looking back at some of the things in here. Yada, 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 yada. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. By the way, this is a delicate topic, and since it's the after show, I feel free to bring it up. I didn't say a lot. He was 21. What? But Wendy had a great time here last night. Yes, she did. We talked today. She saw some of the comments in the chat room, and she wasn't hurt or anything like that, but she was like, he said what? And she was not very happy about it. Something was said about her maybe faking responses to me. And I said, she doesn't have to fake any responses to me. She's not my wife. Bada boom. And it's a joke. It's a joke. It's an orgasm joke. It's an orgasm joke. If it went
Anyway, she said something about some people may be thinking that she was faking, giving me responses I wanted to hear and not really showing the cards. And she did show some of the cards, but she was reading very casually and comfortably with me. She said, look, if somebody's going to say that about me, that's not just offensive or insulting. She said, that's insulting my integrity in what I do. And she said, I would take great umbrage at that and great issue with that. She said, that to me is tantamount to legal slander. And so she was, now this is just she and I were talking. And so her take on that was, and I encourage everybody in my chat room, if you're associated with this show and you're going to be part of this chat room, if you're not just a guest coming in who I would boot in the ass and kick them out for saying some things, watch your tongue. Watch the way you talk to people. I'm going to put that out there and just say it's okay to have differences of opinions. It is not okay to slander somebody. It's not okay. And think, what are we always told? Think before you open your mouth. Is the thing. It's not that you can't express yourself. So you have to think of what you're saying and what you're doing. What now, Dave?
I said, think before you speak or think before you type. And
that's it.
Some of our friends are casually blunt.
Yes. Casually blunt. I understand.
I'll say that. I don't think that they mean harm, but they don't use a governor before they comment. And I think they should use a governor when they comment, especially when they're commenting on guests or on even other people in the chat room. We owe each other more respect than that.
Yeah, we do. So I would ask if you're associated with this show in any way, meaning you're part of this family, you're a member of this, every opinion is allowed. If you're going to criticize, use tact and call me, write to me privately, ask a question privately before you go attempting to damage somebody, even if you don't think you're doing it. If you don't think you're doing it, usually 9 times out of 10, you're not thinking about what you're saying. We got Professor Bauer coming in. Boom! Professor Bauer.
Hey, Prof.
What's going on, gents?
How you doing, brother?
Doing great.
By the way, Amanda Berry doesn't mean to harm anyone. Just most times it falls out. It's like it just dribbles.
I take no offense at anything you say, darling.
I'm not worried about you, Amanda. Seriously. So
anyway. I heard something about some consternation about some of the comments in the chats.
There were comments, and it's very pointed. And I'm not mentioning the person because he knows who he is, and I just don't want to make it a personal issue, but it has to be said in this more casual format of this show. And it's usually the members or the people that are here for most of this is that, look, a little house cleaning, use a little tact, especially when there's a guest. You can say anything you want to me. And if you're going to say something in the open, I'll generally, if I think it's needed, I'll respond in the open. I'll generally keep my responses as professional as I can. At the same time, there are some people who just don't use that. God, Professor Bauer, you really, what are you, bald and you're wearing a wig and you don't know how to style your wig, or what, fuck nut? Jesus Christ.
I actually ran across it.
Now I might
ran across a comment on one of my old videos, one of the Nexus shows that I forgot the video was even up. It's on my Professor Bauer channel. And it said, the guy said, I think it's a guy, said, you would think with all those smarts that you'd learn how to get a good haircut. And I read it and I hadn't even looked at the video. I just saw it in the comment list. And so I went and looked at the video and I said, well, yeah, it was during the winter and I was letting it grow. And yeah, okay, it could have been trimmed. But, you know, when you see things like that, I think Dave used the term, some people don't have a governor, right?
Yeah.
To me, it's really understanding the filters that you use in your own mind and how those filters dictate the way you interact with whatever it is you're interacting with, right? So the filter component, I mean, the last few years, that's just been tossed out the window. The filters have left the building.
Yeah.
And you've now got all of this unfiltered and quite honestly, emotionally immature and unstable emotional content. So the filters for the emotions, I mean, hell, those have been kicked to the curb for a few decades, but now it's to the point where you can literally say anything to anyone and expect it to be taken as the truth from the one that has
this
put
is
it
just
forth.
the way I see it,
and therefore, if you even question the intent behind or the reason behind that emotional outburst and expression, you're in another hole. You know, you've already started one hole because you questioned it, and if you start, you know, help me understand what it is that's going on here so that I can appreciate how not to create this kind of response. And it's typically packaged in being offended or, you know, having some kind of derogatory or demeaning or dismissive approach to whatever the subject is, whether it's your race, your ideology, the way you look. It doesn't matter. Everything is now open season for the unfiltered to fill up with their foolishness.
Yes.
And I find it fascinating. And one of the reasons that I am so grateful for being, you know, hunkered in my bunker and stuck in my studio, because I have found, as a whole, other humans to be less pleasurable than they used to be.
Yes.
And I find it's more irritating and frustrating to engage with them than it was in the past. And I've always been an outgoing, you know, A-type personality. I'll talk to anybody about anything.
And, you know, I don't have any problem with people expressing opinions. Many times you'll see in days gone by where I did a lot of political posting because Rocky and I were doing political radio. I had all kinds of crap said all the time. And I generally just let people say what they wanted to say. You know, if you're being an idiot, go ahead. Here, I'll extend you a little more rope.
I've kept a list of all the things he's been called, just in case I need a reference.
Oh my
goodness!
Yeah,
and some of that, I've kept you know, little lists of like that along the way because some of them are extremely creative, and you go, well, oh shit, I would have thought about that. That's a good one.
It's like the one woman who referred to me as a Zionist Nazi. I said, what? You know, that was my
combo there.
You called me.
I do not think you know the meaning of these words.
Yeah, she called me a Zionist pig, and she was the head of some little organization somewhere. You're just a Zionist pig, you Nazi. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah. You're whiter than Nazi. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I am. I'm frankly, I need a suntan.
You're pinker than a Nazi.
I'm pinker.
But Dave, you made the point about, you know, it's the words, right? And
yeah,
that's one of the other things that's been extremely fascinating to me is to watch the linguistic gymnastics.
Hey, Melinda, you gotta stop calling me that.
Well, as a
how you doing?
How you doing?
There she is.
Go ahead. To me.
Go ahead.
I think she's talking to me, Scotty.
You got to throw that in there.
But literally the linguistic gymnastics are requiring mental gymnastics.
Yes.
That people have not been trained for. They have not been exposed to, and it's because of this what to think being the replacement for how to think. So
exactly.
Getting back to the fundamentals of how one
lack of Shakespeare.
right? And getting words, learning sounds, learning the etymology, the content, and the intent. And this reminds me of something else that I think it was you were talking about it on the show earlier, and that was, you know, how you use different ways for different tools for divination, right? Different techniques, whether it's tarot or psychic or stones or cards or coffee grinds or astrological charts. It doesn't matter. They're all numerology, tarot, I Ching. They are all different tools and techniques to divine the energy that is afoot, right?
Yes.
And that is what, well, in the Middle Ages, just around the Renaissance, just before, you started the alchemists. And alchemists were the guys who combined everything. All chemistry is essentially, you know, it translates to. But that means integration of all things to try to get to, or try to create a tool to do this divination. But one of the things that is not in from what I've read and seen, it isn't given as much of import as it should. And we are seeing that now with what we were just talking about as far as the use of language and all these other things, is that the commonality of all of the alchemists, no matter what they were trying to do, was their intent.
Yes. By the way, I just threw that up to let Rudy Kessler know he's welcome. Hey, welcome, Rudy. And the answer would be yes, if you shave all your body hair first. So go ahead. I'm sorry to break up.
But I think you were talking about something about intent earlier in the show, if I heard it correctly. But I had 3 or 4 things going on, so I may have misinterpreted that.
That's okay.
But my point is that intent is the real nut of the nugget. You know, once you have your landscape of awareness and you're able to see what's going on, and you're able to filter through the stuff that you need to know about and stuff you may not want to know about, but you go through your reality seeing these connections and seeing these different things in the way that you interpret and get into the reality you inhabit. Yes. Well, that's the intent behind all this linguistic and mental gymnastics that is afoot, is to create confusion and chaos within those systems, within the systems that with the way you think. Mm-hmm. There is a certain amount of persuasion that's going on. They're trying to push people in certain directions from a persuasive ideological perspective. But the fundamental tool is the emotive content and their intent on stirring as much of that up as possible. So that's one of the reasons you can look at some of the just overtly blatant bullshit that's going on, and you go, no, wait a minute, are you paying attention to what you're doing? Because if you were, you wouldn't be, you'd have a good serious think about it, because it's not working.
Well, that's it.
So it's so blatant. It's like you seriously can't be conscious while you're doing this unless this is a choice.
Yes.
So the intent is to push those things. They use emotions and the energy of emotions with a bunch of transgendered words, okay, and even ideologies. You know, all of the terms now have lost the initial core meaning, and now they're fluid. You have fluid meanings for all kinds of different things that used to be kind of a certain way for a few hundred years, you know, for the important stuff. But that, I think, is what we're seeing, and it's running out of juice. It's shooting its load.
It is.
Yeah, the wad is
people
done.
Getting very tired of it.
But part of this problem comes back to some people are natural contrarians, and it doesn't matter what you're talking about. They feel a necessity to be an opposing argument to it. It's like, why can't you just sit and listen and not have to constantly be so contrary to everything?
You can participate in a conversation, in a discussion, in a debate without being contrarian in nature.
Well, no, I think that being contrarian in nature is a good thing, because one of the things that just chaps my ass is all these people that are constantly going on about, follow the science, trust the science, the science is all this other stuff, because that is not science. The scientific method is for constant change.
See, maybe I'm not using that word, defining it properly, because I would say a contrarian is not a person who makes comment and can be contrary to the flow of narratives sometimes. But a contrarian to me is a person who is innately contrarian.
Negative?
I am contrarian. You say that you like music, and I say, well, music is a really damaging thing, and it's not that I'm offering up an argument.
It's like,
well, that's a state of mind that you get from exactly the tactics that we're seeing.
Yes.
They're trying to create that contrarian mentality from what they're positioning as what needs to be. Well, but I don't think I think that those that have been fanning and amplifying this narrative are not anywhere near as many as they seem to be. And I've said this before. The noise level is coming from a relatively few that are actually following this.
Those few are very loud.
Yes. That's my point. They're noisy. They're frustrating, annoying as hell. And you're going, okay, I've had enough of this. And that is actually the other part of what I think is we're about to see. It has gotten to the point where it's so blatantly inept, incompetent, nefarious intent that you look at it and you go, well, you can be asleep and still know that, maybe you're sleeping in the woods and there's a bear outside your tent. Okay. Common sense will kick in. And at some point, even at that level of the sleeple, they're going to wake up. And I think so you've got that, which is probably the 30 to 40% of the population. You've got another 20 to 30%, which is this group that's always been kind of floating around going, I'm not sure what's going on that side, not sure what's going on over there.
They're the people. So you have the sleeple, they're just waking up to what's going on. But the sheeple are the ones that are wide awake and just following along blindly.
Yes.
Where are we going?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Shepard said to go this way.
And I want to say some more about that, but Sarah, welcome, Sarah. She hasn't said a thing yet. What's your take on stuff, Sarah?
Well, I was in the chat room yesterday and I was like literally biting my tongue. So I mean, I just said, you handle it the way you want to handle it. So it's,
I didn't handle it as well as I should have. I just let it go for a while. Yeah. And then I try to not respond to some of it. But then there were times I had to say something.
And to your point, what Professor Bauer was saying, it's not just being contrarian, it's the engagement in placing those boundaries, because every person has their own, if you want to call it, system constructs, complex system of constructs that they're working from, that form our perspectives and everything else. And the way we could sort of interpret our world is through through experience. You experience different types of people, different things, and you choose what to take in and what fits with your worldview. Where we're all accused of cherry picking, what works and what doesn't work. And then for things that we consider quote unquote negative for us, we set boundaries and say, okay, I'm not going to allow this energy or this thing to affect me, I
think sometimes we give people a certain amount of allowance to make comments and in essence speak their mind, and then sometimes regret that because they take that
they take the ball and run with it
to say I can say whatever the hell I want.
It's it's libertine versus libertarian type of mentality.
Well, then the other thing though too, I think the majority of what was, and apparently Wendy had this reaction, it came across with an emotional intent.
Yeah.
Those comments could have easily been made in a sarcastic tone, and not had that kind of an effect.
Yes.
Right?
And how do you do that? You apply tact.
Well, you can. it first starts with being able to have your own filter, to have your own sense of not only self, but, you know, and what Sarah was just mentioning, we all have our, you know, things that our biases, right? One of the things that, and I don't think people appreciate this and understand it as much as for its import. One of the fundamental ways in which our mind and our existence works is on the third level of my diagram, but it's on preferences, peccadillos, the things that you are drawn to, and biases. Okay, a bias. We've been told that bias is not something that you're either entitled to or you have the rights to levy or whatever. When in actuality, it is one of the fundamental things of our nature, of the way that we exist. A bias is nothing more than a preference or a leaning, or something that you resonate with at a degree where you want more of it, right? It stimulates you, or for whatever reason, in whatever way. Sometimes it may not be as much as a stimulation as much as it is just a thought, a philosophy, an idea about the way that you inhabit and exist within the universe. So, but those things that's how we operate. Biases, preferences, peccadillos, all of those things, you know, things that we resonate with, that we're attracted to. So that is a fundamental way in which we work and we function, but it's been weaponized and told that you need to turn it off. Right. So that right there is a fundamental, great big, you know, fuck off. Yep. That is part of the, you know, what's being attacked in the social fabric. Ergo, we have disjointed discourse by people who have too many things going on that they haven't sorted out, and their filters aren't working correctly, and they say what they think, which everybody should be able to do, but it's unfiltered. It's unthought through. Right. And that is, you know, when you're jumbled up with all the crap that they're throwing at you, it's hard to weed your way through it. Hell, just to go out and get your coffee maker going, let alone put up with a conversation with somebody.
Well, like I say, sometimes it's delivery. I think Sarah alluded to this as well. It's the way you structure what you say. A good, for instance, is I knew some people that were trying to talk to older couple, trying to talk to their daughter about her sleeping around and stuff like that. And trust me, a whole bigger picture than what I'm revealing here, but that came down to it. They wanted to talk to her about that. And the approach was, so there were two different approaches. A brother said of her, you're just an effing whore. And then the parents said basically the same thing by saying, honey, we think that you're giving away a part of yourself a little too freely. And you want to watch the way you do that because you're going to break your soul. Now, which one of those said anything really kind of different from each other? But one had tact and one was tactless. One had forethought, the other did not. Both opinions were probably true. You know, calling a woman a fucking whore because she sleeps around, maybe her brother was telling the truth. But maybe their approaches, the parents and the brother, were all based on their experiences in life, their experiences with that.
Depends on how she answered them. If she answered the parents, if she answered the parents, I ain't giving nothing.
Well, I think the answer was something like, I'm not a whore because I don't. Right. I think the answer was something, I'm not a whore because I don't do it for money. I give it away. I'm just a slut. And I think it was something along those lines.
But again, she understands the words. See, she's using the right words.
Yeah.
But even in that case, you know, to use that example, that's not going to be addressing the issue, because what's causing the behavior, you know?
Right.
That's not going to think that's just, you know, that it's not.
But by what's causing what behavior? The behavior of the girl or the behavior of the
behavior of the girl
person, or?
I mean, the girl.
The girl. Okay.
Yeah.
Clearly, she's searching for something.
Yeah. Clearly, there's something else going on. And Rainey said something to me yesterday, or maybe no, it was today earlier. And
she says that every morning, though.
Yeah. No, she said something to the effect of it. She was mad at me about something. Not really mad at me, just a bicker response. And I'm like, Rainey, why did you respond to me that way? I said, could you lay your head back on the pillow here and tell me what's really going on deep down inside? And she's like, fuck off. I go, no, I'm kidding. I'm not looking for, and so I meant it as a joke to try to lighten any kind of tension that might be. And so then it was, once she understood I was just kidding, I think once that sank in, it was like, oh, okay, I get it. But yeah, there's maybe I said the wrong thing. I try to be lighthearted, in those face of those things. I try to be tactful. It's like the old, I don't know. No, I'm not even going to use an example. But I think like with the example of Wendy last night, she was there at my invite to present what she does in a lighter fashion. It wasn't lighter, meaning we didn't go in depth and it wasn't going to be a 5-part series on
Right.
It was just, this is what Wendy does and this is how she does it. And these are some of our anecdotal little stories for being friends.
Even with the things presented, I mean, some things I could resonate with, other things that I didn't, and the things that I didn't, I didn't say anything.
Sure.
Plus it was recorded. So,
Yeah.
And last night it was equivalent when people were asking questions, and you guys remember it's recorded. It's like you're yelling at the TV.
Wendy, like me, though, has a complex background of what we do, so it's not easy in one interview to say, well, we're just going to kind of
shoot the breeze.
You can't do anything but gloss over it. You can't really, unless you just say, we're going to pick this aspect and we're just going to talk about it and we're not going to talk about everything else.
Right. I mean, you find that a lot, and I find that a lot when I listen to different paranormal podcasts, and it's like we're finally getting into it, the hour's up. So it's like,
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Amanda mentioned the rods. Oh, hey, Wendy. There's Wendy Robertson right there. How you doing, Wendy? It is got to be it's 4:30 in the morning there. So glad you're up for us this morning.
So she's in the Facebook chat again.
Yeah. There was something I said last night with the rods, and I used an example, and I had to be very careful in that example because
gonna have to go to.
I didn't want to reveal who that was because some people might know who that was, and then I was already, from the time I started it until I was done with it, I thought I shouldn't have even brought this example up. Rainey asked me today. She said, "You don't think people thought you were talking that we're having problems, do you?" And I said, "I don't think so," and because it wasn't about us having problems. And that's not what the example was. It was something different. And so there are things like that where I only brought that up because it was talked about by Rainey and I today because Amanda said something about the rods being used. So anyway, I wanted to clarify that for those of you who were here last night and may have seen that.
So, Scotty, I had a question for you, and it kind of came from the after show last night, the Captain's Cabin.
Oh, look who's here.
Wendy's in.
Hey, Wendy's here. Welcome, Wendy.
Good evening.
How are you?
Well, I'm sort of somewhere between sleep and not sleep.
Well, this may be an interesting place to go when you're in that state.
It is. I just literally woke up. I normally sort of wake up around this time, and I thought I'd just come in and say hello, and I can hear what you guys were talking about, and I thought, well, I came in at the right time, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Your ears must have been, what is it? Your ears tickle or your nose itches?
Burning.
Ears burning.
Or maybe I just, got that vibe to come in. But it's nice to see some friendly faces, and thank you for the lovely things that have been said about our interview yesterday. But I'm sad to say that there were not some very nice things said yesterday, and that saddens me.
Yeah, it does me too. It's too
Well,
bad.
I mean, you have to remember that it's also, you know, the internet. So, I mean, in terms of, you know, you just don't let that type of energy, you know, affect you.
Well,
know?
I think too,
you're
even though we're
absolutely
not anonymous here, there's an anonymity people think through the internet that they can say whatever they want because they're not going to bump into you tomorrow at work at the water cooler or something. So
Right,
they feel that they can just be blunt and blatant about, and it's not appropriate.
I agree, and I mean some of the things I read actually could be taken quite slanderous, and I have great integrity, and I feel that my integrity was in fact called into question, and that's something that I take incredibly seriously. The people that I read for, I take it seriously, so I'm very disappointed to have seen that.
Yeah, I was disappointed that it was brought up the way it was too. So, like I say, everybody is welcome to express opinion here, but opinion, when you're a decent person, opinion has to be tempered with forethought and tact. And or you go to that person directly. I used to say, when I was in church work many years ago, I would tell my youth group, there was this little thing we said, and we were talking about other people offending you and forgiveness and stuff, which isn't the same thing I'm talking about here, but the point can be made. I said, if you are the offended party, be the first to go to the offender. If you are the offender, be the first to go to the offended. And I said, so basically what I'm telling you all in the context of what we were speaking about, giving offense or taking offense, I said, always be the first one to seek out the either the forgiveness that's needed or needs to be asked for, or the personal talk, whatever needs to be done, you go to that person. And especially if you've made a public spectacle of it. That's something I don't like at all.
Well, the thing about that, Scotty, is that in order for any of that to happen, the awareness, the awareness and perspective of what has transpired needs to be at play. And when it's not in play, it doesn't matter whether you are the offended or the offender. Then that next step to resolution is something that can only be done for oneself.
Yeah.
So you have to have that self-awareness and that perspective. And then, you know, that's where the whole idea of the memes of, you know, forgive whether it's taken or not, or accepted or not.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because that's the releasing of that and the coming to an understanding and self-examined perspective of what your role was.
Yes.
That's the only thing that you can be truly responsible for.
It's a modification of self. I mean, you can only control how you react to things, not other people.
I mean, it's very true. And I think that what the interview showed yesterday is that obviously Scotty and I have known each other a very long time, as I've known David actually as well, quite some years. I am English. We do have a very cheeky sense of humour, and we do tend to like the old near the mark, because that's our sense of humour. Like the great Carry On movies would show you. That is our sense.
Most people didn't even know what you meant by that. That's I'm pretty sure.
Well, you know, and I think it shows you also how easy Scotty is to. You feel very relaxed, very at ease to talk about your craft and your issue. Sure. So I don't think he spoke over me too much at all. Actually, I think he.
I didn't catch that either, and I was kind of confused by all those comments because I was like, I thought Scotty was letting you talk plenty.
Yeah, he did. I mean, you know, we only had an hour, and also because the fact we were recording it, because you know the 6-hour time difference. I'm not always up at this time of night, and literally it was so nice to have that, you know. And it's a very when you've got a good interviewer, like you just feel at ease, and so anything that comes from that, comes from that. But it's like I'm so sorry that I didn't show all my cards to what I was reading about, because I was so involved in it.
And I didn't need to see them because you told me what the cards were.
Exactly.
And I know, well, I understood them, and
and why I would put myself on show on the internet to actually just read for someone who actually I don't know what goes on in their personal life every single day of the year. Like, I just read for people. When people come to me, I just read for them, and I take that very seriously. My work is very important to me, and the people that I help are very important to me. And I think that when you question what I do, it also it somehow cheapens the people that I have helped and the people that do come to me in the future for help, because integrity is everything.
Well,
yeah, it
and
is.
I would say this: the vast majority of the people in the chat room just ignored those comments and moved on. And even now, people are commenting on how much they enjoyed the interview yesterday, and they weren't affected by the comments being made.
I just know that I'm too cheeky now, so I have to like reel in that English sense of humor, and like, oh, I can't say that.
Definitely.
And the thing is, I suppose having the Strangely Us podcast with Mark, he and I are very at ease, and we are, what you see is what you get with us. There's no airs and graces. We are who you see. And I think that's great, because when I want to watch someone, like I want to watch Scotty or Mark or other people, I've been checking you out as well, Professor Bauer, and some of the stuff that you do. You feel that need. I've been checking you out.
Checking you out, dude.
Was that cheeky?
It was cheeky. It was cheeky. I need to come with that warning, don't I? Wendy is cheeky, obviously.
Well, and I commented on that yesterday. I said, look, she's not being flirty with Scotty. No. She's just casual with Scotty. And I said, it's just like when we talk, there's a natural flirtation that happens in our chats as well. It's not anything other than that.
And I think it's also about making someone feel at ease as well, because if you crack a few jokes and, it eases sometimes the nerves, or, it makes someone feel a little bit more, it can do it, or at least make someone feel quite, at ease. And I had the interview was so much fun, and I'm so looking forward to working. We've talked about it for years. And the other thing as well, I do suffer with health issues. I have quite a complicated health issue in my life. I do not need medication for it, thankfully. I do not take drugs, nor do I take to alcohol. And I would never, ever do that in my readings. And
that was another charge made last night.
I find that highly offensive, and could be taken as slanderous, that the fact that I was under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And I think people should be very careful when they make comments like that, because they actually can be taken a lot further.
Well, and this is all. Now I know you well enough in the conversations we have. You don't face a lot of this in general in public out there, because you don't put yourself out in. Well, I take that back. You might with some of the political stances with the vaccinations and stuff like that over there. But we were talking earlier and joking about it. I've been called. Dave said I could write an encyclopedia reference book on the insults Scotty's gotten over the years online, because that's
surely
the nature
not.
of.
Surely,
yeah. I keep notes.
Oh, some of them are really creative.
Oh yeah, and so there's a certain point where some of it it's water off a duck's back for me. Yeah. Others bothers me. There's some things that bother me. And it's not because they hit too close to home or anything like that. It's because there is that thing out there in politics. There is, not to open up that can of worms at all, but there was a guy, Saul Alinsky, who wrote the 10 Rules for Radicals, amongst other things, or Rules for Radicals was his book. And some of the rules that he operated by was, one of them was, you say something so profoundly off-center about your opponent that they have to then spend time defending themselves from the charge and not delivering their message. And I think that is what happens sometimes in a lot of these situations is somebody, now, you weren't anybody's opponent last night, but something was said, several things said that left you in a position of, do I need to defend that or do I just let it go? And some people, like my wife said today, she said, well, you guys should just let it go. Don't let it bother you. And I said, well, it does bother me. That's the problem. And I want that rooted out because I want the person who said that to know it's being rooted out. Or in any situation, if I keep it more general, people who do that kind of thing, in my book, need to have it brought to their attention. And it's not just to sweep it under the rug and do a little tiny mea culpa and it's over. So,
well, so to me, I've been, as of lately, and in the past I never did this, but in this past year or so, I've really been posting a lot of the craft when I'm out there working on a project and showing the process. And I had a comment the other day that I don't know why it bothered me so, but it did because it struck at the absolute basics of what we do as painters in working with light.
Oh yeah, I saw those comments.
I'm like, in the thing it says, hey, this is a work in progress, blah blah blah, just roughing the body in and stuff. And there was a comment made on light source, and I'm like, well, duh. I've been doing this for 40 years. I understand all that. I don't think that comment needed to be made.
Yeah.
And
I agree, David, totally.
I was chastised for putting unfinished work online. And I'm like, well, the whole purpose of this is to show the process for those who want to follow along and understand how a wall or a painting or something like this comes together.
I put up unfinished work all the time. I'll show a pencil sketch, and then I'll show the revised pencil sketch, and then I'll show the ink drawing, then I'll show the either paint or the digital and how it's coming along, and then the final enhanced digital piece. I do that all the time with work.
And what we always tell the client when we're working on a wall, because they'll come in some days and the color drains from their face and they're thinking, oh my God, we're paying a lot of money for this. Right. And we always say, looks like shit. Oh my God, that's amazing. That's the problem. And
I mean, obviously, one of the things I checked in for tonight was actually look at David's beard, because it's actually fantastic and spectacular. and you know, I just only have to look at it.
Stop. Behave.
But
it's a work of art.
There's a very true.
It's out of hand. It's getting really scruffy.
Looks like it's in your hand. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It's really long, and it's the sides have gotten really long, and the undergrowth has gotten really long. It's very shaggy. It needs a good trim.
Well, I'm expecting to see a Santa outfit, you know, for sure. But there's a very true saying. Look, I don't mind if people believe in what I do or they don't believe. I really don't mind, because we're all entitled to our own opinions, and we're all entitled to, if it's for you, great. If it's not you, that's fine. But I've always believed in that very saying, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Move along, and actually don't listen to something that you're not drawn to, because there are things I'm not into in life. I don't spend any time listening to it, because at the end of the day, I've got more important things to do with my time than
I tune Scotty out all the time just because it's like, oh,
you do what?
What?
I didn't catch a part of what you said. I was reading
He was being cheeky, Scotty. He was being cheeky.
Oh, being cheeky. Dave, are you being cheeky again?
I was not.
Yeah, I don't know.
One of the things that Wendy I wanted to share with you is I had a similar experience. It was a different platform, and it was back in 2007, I think. I had just finished producing a CD on adult meditations for a friend of mine who had a book series, and I convinced her to turn all the books into audiobooks. So I did all the production, and we had different voices and stuff. And for the one for adult, I did the voice and wrote all the music. So they put it up on Amazon, right? And they had their own website, and she even ended up on Shark Tank, and
wow,
and got a deal.
Nice.
But anyway, so the CD went up on Amazon, all the CDs, and as well as the books. So after about a year, there was 50 or 60 reviews, and they were all just stellar. I mean, people from doctors, psychologists, parents, siblings had all been looking for something and found it just made a huge difference in their life. And then one day I get this call from the author, from Laura. She said, "Have you seen the latest review on Amazon?" And I said, "No." So I went and checked it out, and it was the scathing, but very well written and very detailed, ripping apart of everything that I did, from my voice to the production to the music. Some of the stuff I actually agreed with him on. And I kind of went, well, I didn't think about it that way, or see that kind of thing. But now that it's been said, yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Okay,
and just ripped me a new one. Okay.
Was it like your competitor?
I don't know who it was. It was some rando that apparently bought it and used it. But
I would have wrote back, "I can fix this. I can fix that. I can fix this." But you'll always be a jerk.
Yeah.
Well, my first, when my first read through, I was devastated. It was like, because it was not just slanderous ad hominem bullshit. It was actually some good stuff, but it was just, this guy doesn't know what he's fucking doing, and you should have done this. This is wrong. How can you? And this tempo is just sucks, and it's boring. I mean, he just went on, and I sat there for a day, and I marinated in that, and it was not a nice marinade. I didn't
that this all reminds me of and take heart, Wendy. I have British heroes too. Winston Churchill, and we're all fairly familiar with some of his sayings. Who was the woman? I don't remember. The woman came to him at a party, a dinner party, and said, "Why, Mr. Churchill, you're drunk." And his response was, "Yes, madam, but in the morning I shall be sober, but you shall still be very ugly."
Do you know, we use that saying all the time, believe me, over here. And the thing is, Scotty, life is so tough and so difficult right now. We're all going through our own private stuff. It's so nicer to actually inspire and lift each other rather than pull us apart and pull us down. And I think that you have to question the motives of somebody, why they would want to pull someone apart, why they would want to bring them down, when it's far easier to actually say and inspire someone and lift them up. And I'm all for that, even if I don't agree or I don't believe. It's like, I'd rather be inspirational, at least somewhere, than actually be negative. And your show is very much about inspiring and showing. And I think it brings a negative tone, which when you watch it as a viewer, you're kind of like, oh, actually, I think I might just go and make a cup of tea now. So that's another thing.
That's the thing, is that everybody has two choices when they wake up in the morning. They can either have a positive influence on their day or a negative influence on their day.
Yes.
And you're either aware of that or you're not, but those are the two choices you're going to go forth with. And as I was talking about marinating in that just scathing review, once I got on the other side of it, I realized that, and I actually learned this when I started my record label prior to doing this, but I realized that art is so subjective. Skills are subjective, particularly when it comes to mental skills, consciousness, psychic skills, and all the different divination tools and techniques that we were talking about earlier. Those are so personal, and they're things that you end up having your own personal connection to. And it's something that is very near and dear to your being, because it is something that you have, something that you experience, right? And that resonance is not going to be the same for everyone at all. That saying about, when people get irritated with you, it's because you're irritating their demons, right? Your energy is not resonating with this stuff that they haven't dealt with yet. So I learned that I had to be as just openly objective to whatever I do resonates with whoever, and whatever I do that doesn't resonate with people. And you will bump into those that don't resonate with your stuff, and you've just got to go, okay, I get it that my frequency is not fit with your frequency, and that's okay. But it's a good thing that I know it. You should know it too. And then we can go about our merry ways and avoid that interaction of disharmonious, exchange, because it's going to be everywhere. It's like you just said, there is so much going on. Everybody's got a number of different things that they're dealing with in their own lives and in their own consciousness. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier about words and the way that they're used, and the weaponization of the words that have now been assembled into brigades of sentences that are then given to the herd to go out and push down everybody's throat, up their ass and down their throat. And it's like, okay, there's a tsunami of this, and it has to be mitigated in some way, shape, or form, because it's overwhelming. And for people who are actually in a level of an awareness of consciousness about these things, that have skills like you do and Scotty, the way that people are able to tune into the frequencies of life and the changes around in the universe, we've just got to be okay, this stuff, you can see it coming a mile away. You're going to interact with it. There's no choice. There's just too much of it. But you have to be able to let it bounce off of you and at a minimum, and hopefully, keep it yourself from bouncing off it. And I had to get to the point where the ego in me that was programmed in for being offended by somebody hurling harsh words and ideas at me about me, I got over that. I had to, because it was way too intense for me. It was, my emotions are so powerful that I had to learn how to manage them. Otherwise, I'd be a mess, and there'd be a mess all over.
That's why I have said for a very long time, it's not that things that are said sometimes don't bother me. I get bothered sometimes. Sometimes I get pissed off, and I react that way. But I try to always keep my reaction in check with professionalism or with a decency. But there is a thing I've always said, is that you can't offend me, because offense happens when I appropriate what was said and take on the offense. So I always tell people, you can't offend me, because I don't value your opinion. It comes down to that. So if I am to be offended, I must first, it's what was the Doc Holliday line? So if I'm to be insulted, I must first value your opinion.
I mean, and think about the duality or the oxymoronic thing going on there.
Yeah.
You have to give someone the power for you to be offended. So you're giving someone the offense that they're using against you. It's like, wait a minute, that isn't, if you stopped and thought about it, you'd go, well, wait, I'm not, no. You can use different colloquialisms and ways to phrase it, like you just mentioned, Scotty. But at the end of the day, it's like we were talking about, having some kind of tact and some kind of filter and understanding the room, all those types of concepts of being aware of your surroundings and the energies and what's being engaged, what you're engaging with. And then you have, the ability to have a more productive and positive experience as you go through it. But
that's like my favorite comeback for a long time, years ago. So my favorite comeback is, oh yeah. So, it's like, it's basically, a fuck off type of a response. It's,
Yeah.
I'm very
Nothing
tempted at
upsets
times.
them more than when you agree with them.
Yes,
You're
yes.
a complete fucking ass.
Well,
Yeah.
why? Yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am. Yes, I am.
One of my better go-tos of
Certainly
late has
am.
been really.
Yes,
Yeah,
Really?
that's
I
really
say
you're bringing that along.
I say that all the time. And the one thing I love is
Mhm.
humor. Humor is so important in our life. And it's like in my readings, I use humor because some things, you're talking about, you think, I need to lighten it up here. And the thing is, I have to say it again, I am British and we do have our own unique, like the Irish, like the
Yes,
Scottish,
yeah.
like the Welsh, we have our own sense of humor. And I'm going to be sending a box set of Carry On films and everything out to you three lads over there so that you can actually see where some of my humor comes from, because the great likes of Sid James and Kenneth Williams, Hattie Jakes, etc., who brought so much joy to the world with their films and their light-hearted sense of humor, which even to this day still live on in some of us, and we quote it quite a lot over here. I think you guys use the Austin Powers line quite a lot. Oh, behave, like
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll behave.
So some of that is like I'm very proud of that side to me. That sort of English, naughty, cheeky, if you want to use the word, flirty sense of humor.
Naughty. Say naughty
Scotty and I
again.
were talking about this
Wait,
the
wait,
other
wait,
day.
wait. Wendy, say naughty again.
You're very naughty.
There it
You're
is.
very
Yeah.
naughty.
She's-
You're all very naughty. And I'm going to
We've
send
been
this
through
box.
this before.
We have.
I was knighted in the Order of the Naughty Men out at
Naughty.
festival because the order is set up based on people trying to do something chivalric that goes totally wrong. And I was helping the queen out of a giant swing, and her ladies in waiting were walking behind her, and the queen was about to catch the hoop of her skirt on the top of a post just before she went down the stairs. So I grabbed a hold of the hoop and lifted it over that. While I was holding her hoop in one hand, I took the hand of another lady to help her down the stairs. By the time that lady got to the bottom of the stairs, the queen was on the ground and I'm holding her hoop up in the air. So I had her backside completely exposed. So,
How very dare you? How very dare you do that to our sovereign?
That
There
sounded like a cheeky move, Dave.
A cheeky move,
Yeah.
Dave. Literally
It ended
so.
a cheeky move.
she knighted me by pulling her hanky and go, "You naughty, naughty man."
Yes,
And I said,
yes.
"Oh, Your Majesty, I believe you just knighted me." It's
Yes. So,
Well, I was going to say the other day, Scotty and I were having this conversation, and we were brought up on Python and the Goodies and
Yes.
the Young Ones and just all of those shows.
mhm.
And that is
So-
the British, that is very much the British sense of humor. We are near the mark. We are, we don't have a problem. There is no taboo in British humor. We go, if you look at Little Britain, using that as an example, some people be like, oh my goodness, but actually, we just have this sense of humor, and we don't mean to offend. But that's who we are. We're known for that. But I think they are. When I was growing up, there was massive influences. In some of the comedies, you look back, you think, oh my god, like It Ain't Half Hot, Mum, or Are You Being Served? Which
what an
talks
excellent
about
show
Yes.
that was.
Mrs. Slocum's pussy, right? Because that was half the
Right.
joke. Mrs. Slocum was like, "Have you seen my pussy?" Or "My pussy
Right.
needs feeding." It was a great thing in British
You
comedy.
just said those words, and all the guys in the chat room went, "What'd she say?" I mean,
What?
But that is British humor, and I think if you're aware of that, which not everybody is, obviously,
Yeah.
I get that. It's very much tongue in cheek.
Reginald Perring. What a great show that was.
Yes,
Mhm.
very good.
Yeah, I had several examples rushing through my mind of quotes, but the one thing I wanted to say to Melinda was, Melinda, I have a cunning plan.
That's
So, and we all know where that came from. So.
But so cunning, Scotty, that you could put a tail on it and call it a weasel.
there it is. Exactly.
Well, I really enjoyed Benny Hill.
Yeah,
Benny Hill. Yep.
I mean, he was just. I mean, it was just that there was a show here, and Scotty, Dave, tell me if you remember this one, Soupy Sales.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Soupy Sales.
Oh, that's a long time ago, but
long time ago.
It was a kid.
And it was that first before even Hee-Haw and who were the two brothers? Smothers Brothers.
Smothers
Brothers.
Right. So most of those, and Laugh-In, there was that slapstick kind of theme, right? It was just all.
It was vaudeville meets modern television, is what it was.
Yeah.
Just funny as hell, and I remember growing up watching Red Skelton too, and I mean his whole. In fact, back on the the Independence Day show, we played that, right? You played that
Pledge of Allegiance.
His pledge, but it's interesting how comedy, particularly in the likes of the Pryors and the Flip Wilsons and the Dice Clays and of course Carlin, that ability to take some kind of social construct or idea that's going on and tell the truth about it and make it funny as hell is what we don't have enough now. We've got Chappelle's still out there poking the bear, and you got Bill Burr who just doesn't give a shit.
Comedians are terrified to do their job.
They are.
Yes.
And their job is to make people laugh by thinking about what the hell they made them laugh about.
I mean, one of my favorite comedians has always been John Candy, the late great John Candy. And and Planes, Trains and Automobiles is such a classic film. And I think if you're feeling low and down, to go to someone like that, and as you say, these days it's like, oh, you can't say this and you can't do that.
Where's my hand? Why, it's between these two pillows.
But they were fabulous. And also, I mean, Mark and I have talked about on the podcast Kenny Everett, which I don't know if many people would have been aware of him. He was a fantastic comedian who sadly died of AIDS, but he was so funny and he brought so much fun and he was very lighthearted. And you watch some of his stuff today and it's still as sharp and as fresh as it was back then. And I think that's the art of a good comedy. And I've sometimes, when I watch other sort of shows that are supposed to be funny, with that sort of tone, and you think, this isn't working for me. Yet when you see, like, Steve Martin and John Candy together again in a film, they work so well together and they bring joy to millions over the years. And that's humor's one of the greatest healing gifts we've got in life is humor. Even if you're not feeling it, if someone else looks at you and smiles and just makes you feel, maybe cracks a little joke and makes you feel just a little bit uplifted, that's a great healing gift.
Yes.
And being able to do it with, because some of the best comedy I've ever seen are the roasts. When
oh my God, I've seen some.
Dean Martin used to host all these roasts and put the panels up, and these people would just rip each other apart, and it would be this laugh fest. It would be an appreciation of the ability to, just rip somebody apart, and it's funny as hell.
Right, but the new ones aren't near as funny as the old ones. The new ones have just gotten raunchy, and that doesn't make them funnier. They think it does, but it doesn't.
I watched some. I don't remember now who was being roasted for the life of me, but it was a Dean Martin roast. You had Dean Martin, you had Don Rickles,
and Foster Brooks.
Foster Brooks.
He got up there and he says, I've never met him before. He probably doesn't even know why I'm here, but you have a lovely house.
That's right.
I mean, he was just great. But that's the kind of humor that,
and they were dirty.
All that.
They were innocently being dirty.
Oh, but you can find all that on YouTube, which is great because I'll see one of the Dean Martin roasts or and in particular, but a lot of Johnny Carson's been showing up. Some of the Bill Engvall's first appearance on the Tonight Show, different things like that. And I watch that, and it does enough to take me back. It gives me a feeling of, now that is, it's like watching Lucille Ball, right? Or,
Lucille Ball was a genius. Yeah.
Hell, I'd even sit back and watch an episode of Lawrence Welk. I mean, that. I mean, seriously, that
you weren't forced to enough when you were 4?
Well, most of my family were country, right? So it was, if Merle Haggard was on or something, we definitely got a lot of hee-haw.
Yeah.
But we'd sneak off and watch Laugh-In.
Laugh-In was our thing.
Yeah.
See, and I like the British comics like Billy Connolly and
Billy Connolly kills me. I love him.
Jimmy Carr always makes me laugh. He is completely irreverent.
I mean, Billy Connolly is amazing. Amazing guy, Billy Connolly. I mean, he's you know, he's got a way of being so gentle and so sensitive, but at the same time takes the piss out of somebody, and you're just like, that is genius. And I think that if you look back at, you know, over this small island, we have produced some very, very funny people. And I was just thinking, it's as humor touches us all, isn't it amazing that the time difference and the internet, here I am talking to 3 fantastic guys and a lady, although sadly Sarah and I haven't had much chance to chat, but you know, I'm getting to chat to them across the miles, and it's such a great thing that we can mix with each other like this, and it's wonderful.
Yes.
Well, and I always say this is what makes it hard for governments to go to war against each other, when the government says these people are evil. And like, I talk to people in that country all the time, and they're not evil. They're really nice.
Exactly. Well, listen, I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but it's 11:15 in the evening.
Turn your mic off and leave the room. We'll keep chatting.
Yeah, that's exactly.
There you go. I got to get out of here. Pearson Castile, I see you called in. I'm not going to bring you in, brother, because we're just going to wrap it up here. So thanks for calling, and we'll get you next time. Folks, tomorrow's Thursday. You know what that means?
I'll be at Lodge.
It'll be another day of the week, and I have no idea about anything else. So, but we'll see you all back here then. And for now, I want to thank everybody for being here. Sarah, even though you didn't get, I love that you just come in and sit there, and every now and then you go, can I say something? So we got to have
just
maybe
nursing the old folks home.
there it is.
But I would feel lost without your lovely pink dot. I don't know what I would do.
The pink dot makes the room. So
it brightens it up.
So thank you for being here.
All right, thanks guys. I'll see you later.
All right.
I like knowing you're there.
I love knowing she's there too. And Professor Bauer, good to see you, brother. And as always, I love you, man.
It's good to be seen, and the pleasure's all yours.
And you know, there's a man-woman thing going on here, because when women tell other women, you know, I love you, I appreciate you, and all that, they can just say it. Guys, we always have to put a moniker on it. I love you, brother. I love you, fellow beer drinker. I love you, man. But
I love you, dude. Yep.
I mean, I love you, dude.
It is what it is, and if people have a hard time with it, that's their problem, not ours.
Live with love in your heart and go out and do good for other people every day, and life will take care of you.
There it is.
Go with the flow, or the flow will make you go.
Yes.
All right, Professor, I love you, man.
All right.
Have a good night. Thanks for being here.
Namaste.
Uncle Dave, thanks for being here. I'm going to let Wendy go last so I can talk to her for a minute.
Goodbye, Wendy.
Goodbye, David, and look forward to next chat.
Yeah.
See you, Uncle Dave.
Bye-bye.
All right, Wendy, I'm so glad you called in. I'm glad you were here, and it was great having you last night. And I let people know at the beginning of the show that we're going to try to do this. Not even try. I don't know why I'm using guarded language at all, because I've got some major changes coming up with the show here. But we're going to do what we did last night in a little better way, once a week at least. And hopefully starting this next week, maybe the following week, we'll see how things get set up on this end. So I thoroughly enjoyed last night. It was great having you here. And I wanted to talk about this stuff because I thought it was important. So,
well, I only caught some of the chat, and I do forgive me if you hear a purring beside me, but that actually is my cat beside me.
Yeah, that's the cat. Well, at least I don't hear Henry barking. So
no, I know he was making his sound made, but it's been so nice to actually join you guys tonight, and
good to have you
and be a part of you. So here's to our next Flirt Fest. Here's to our next interaction, because it's always fun, and I know Mark is very much looking forward to coming in and joining us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Love you, Wendy.
Love
and
you
I
too.
will talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Have a good rest of your morning. See you later. All right, folks, that's it. That's all we got. That's all there is, folks. So we're going to get out of here. We will see you again tomorrow night. And, as always, I just want you to know, live long and prosper.